Hello, guys and gals, animal friends and spirit pals. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. I always appreciate it. Hope you're having a lovely and joy-filled day. I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit more about channeling and how that works for me, in case there's still a little bit of confusion about it, or it's still a little foggy about how I do it. So, like those of you who've been watching my videos for a little while here, as you know, I first met Djwhal Khul, you know, 35 plus years ago. Um, I met him through a very talented channel. Her name is Terry Newland. And then I worked with him and her. He worked with me telepathically, and she worked with me here on the earth to learn to channel his energy. And, I worked with her quite a while to do that, and him. Um, and he, a lot of times, the way he would work with me is he would come to me in my head and my telepathically and tell me things, and then the next day Terry might call me with the exact same thing. Like he would call and say, Terry would like for you to channel for her class because she has a conflict and can't do it. And I'd be like, she's not going to ask me to channel for her class. That's ridiculous, Thank you to all, but you don't think so. And then the next day she'd call and say, Mark, I wondered if you would channel for my class. And so he would do that kind of thing to me all the time, where first he'd tell me and then it would come through a human. So it was a good way for me to um, figure out that it was really happening and I wasn't just making it all up and stuff like that. So he used to work with me in that way to help me understand it was real. Anyway, so I began to voice channel him, and it was called conscious voice channeling. That's what Terry taught, and that's what Djwhal taught, and that's what I did. So in conscious voice channeling, that means you don't go unconscious, you don't leave your body and let an energy come through and like kind of take over everything. You're there, you're consciously participating and willingly working in a partnership, but it's like I'm setting to the side and they do come into the body and direct the event or the session or whatever we're doing, the class. And I sit and watch um, like that. Now, shortly after I met Djwhal Khul, I met Pan. And it was a little bit of a rigmarole to finally figure out that. At first, I was communicating with the nature spirit. I knew that, but it seemed like a fairy. And when I asked it, it said it was. Its name was Theron, or the fiery one. And it talked to me about plants and animals and things like that. And so I communicated with this thing, and I called it a fairy. Eventually, the fairy handed me off to Pan, or introduced me to Pan. And Djwhal Khul also helped in that introduction, so I could figure out who this was. And when I went to Djwhal and said, this energy Pan has come to me, and then he would concur and tell me, yeah, that's what's happening and stuff like that, because it was odd and I wasn't expecting that. And Pan said that he contacted me through that fairy energy because at that time my attention was way up in the air. I was oftentimes in the imagination realms, kind of flitting around like a fairy, and he needed me to be a little more grounded before he could channel through me. And so first he communicated with me with that energy, and then it was him by himself. That sounds a little weird, but that's the way it was explained to me, and felt like that's what happened. And so then I began to voice channel him as well for classes and private readings and things like that. Now, I've also channeled other energies from time to time. Djwhal has introduced me to different energies, and so has Pan. It could be some other nature spirit or fairy energy or devic energy. Djwhal might talk about a member of the angelic kingdom and bring them and introduce me. And I've, channeled other teachers who've just come to me, like the Master Jesus, for one, that has communicated with me, from time to time. And that's who I think it is, mainly because that's who he told me it was. And just like Pan told me that's who he was, and Djwhal told me that's who he was, well, Master Jesus said, this is who I am. And so they identify themselves and then share their information. Now, they all come through as a different aspect of source. So, we're all one. And they tell us that all the time. But then we're also individual aspects of the one. So individual personalities, individual expressions of source or God. And they're no different than we. In that department, they're an individual aspect. Now, they may have been working in a different dimension or realm and are kind of responsible for quite a bit, but they still are an individualized aspect of the Creator. And that's the way they come to me. Now, I could just channel source in general, kind of an encompassing energy, and from time to time that energy comes through. And that does include all the teachers and includes all of us because we're all one and we're all source. But when I work with the teachers, it's an individual aspect of that. And so they are bringing their viewpoint and sharing that with me. Now, to be honest, most of their messages are very similar or can be the same because they're coming from the same place. They're on the same team. They're all speaking on behalf of Source and their experiences of that and how to best work with that. And their goal is always to encourage humanity to express itself in its highest form possible in a way that serves them and everyone else concerned. And that's always the general message from all of them. Now, the reason I chose to voice channel them, which is different than just communicating or telepathically communicating with them, is because in that way their energy can come through me, become more grounded, and then share with others. So then they can communicate and talk with and work with others who maybe haven't received them yet or figured out how to hear them telepathically. So then they can still meet them this way, and then eventually that can open up and they can have their own relationship. So that's the reason why I voice channel them. It's also the reason why I do that on this channel. That's why I channel on this channel. Is so that their energy can be more grounded and reach out to you guys individually. Otherwise, I would just continue to receive their message telepathically and use it for my own and go about my business. Because around the house, I don't voice channel. They communicate with me and I listen and follow and all that, but I don't go around talking out loud to myself. I bring them in and use the voice or allow them to use my voice to communicate with you because they asked me to and I agreed to do it. And that's a way they can interact with you guys in a more personal way if you haven't opened up your third eye and that whole mechanism as fully as you would like to, or you need some encouragement and help. Just like Terry and Djwhal helped me in the beginning and helped me figure out the whole clairaudience and all that stuff. It's a way to help others get started. So that's why I do that. And I also channel different energies because they're different aspects and they come forward and they each have a different perspective and a different energy to share. And if they ask me to do that, then I'm more than willing. Now, they won't do anything I'm not willing to do. So when I'm channeling them or voice channeling them, in my head, it's sort of like this. I'll get this, it's like a printout or like a ticker tape or a little preview of what they're going to say before they say it or before it comes through my mouth. So it's like running the information past me sort of for approval. That sounds weird, but to make sure I'm willing and it's okay. You know, they're not going to do anything against my will. And so, I'll kind of see it running ahead before they say it. And that's great. So a lot of times that's what's happening in my head is I'm seeing it and then it comes through. Now, when a different energy comes and approaches me, um, they sound different in my head. Like Pan and Djwhal Khul sound different. Master Jesus is different from those two. They have a different form of expression. Their voices, as it were, sound different in my head. And so when I'm channeling them, I would like to be able to convey that difference in expression if I'm able to. Now, sometimes I'm more successful than in others in doing that. If Pan comes through and wants to greet you and he wants to laugh while doing it, I'll see that. And I might go, "Ooh, that's a little awkward or weird." Because, he doesn't laugh the way I laugh. So it's odd. And sometimes it feels weird. But I still would like to allow them to express in a way that expresses their sense of their personality, as it were, if I can. And sometimes I'm able to, and sometimes I'm not. So, Pan's energy is a lot more outgoing. He can be rambunctious or funny, jokey. He would love for me to be a lot more funny when I'm channeling him. So just as they bring through their personalities, it is a partnership and a communication together. So they use parts of my personality in that communication too. Like I say, Pam would like for me to use more of my own sense of humor in channeling. And sometimes I do because he wants me to. He likes that. And they all enjoy using my way of expressing, however lame you may think that is, to help them express. So when I channel any of the energies, it's usually pretty simple, straightforward, and to the point. There's not a lot of flowery stuff. There's not a lot of, let's break this down into a lot of words and categories, and we're not so much into all that. I don't have anything against that. Like other channels might go way into dimensions and fourth dimension, fifth dimension, blah, blah, blah. And we don't so much do that here because they're just more interested in more of a simple presentation of working with spirit on a daily basis. And sometimes in a channeling, something might come through which I'll go, wait, that's confusing, or I don't know that makes sense, or it's a little too complex. And they'll go, oh, well, let's do it this way in a more simple fashion. They'll kind of go, how would be a simpler way? They kind of look for me, the simpleton, to make it simpler somehow. Because that's sort of their plan with me. They do more scientific, medical things like that through other channels, not through me. Although they can tell me a lot of stuff that I don't know or I don't have any clue about all the time. But their general message would be more simply put, if that makes any sense. Now, when I first started channeling, it was very hunky and stop-starty, and weird. It would be really slow. I can remember it'd be like, greetings, Djwhal Khul here. Welcome. Kind of slow and boring and sort of like SOS or Morse code. It would be like one dot at a time, and that was pretty weird. And then, like, when I first started channeling Pan, there was a lot of like kind of physicality that happened. He would stomp my feet quite a bit, or in the beginning he would shake my head up and down like this until I thought it was just going to break my neck. It was very weird, and it only lasted for a short amount of time, and a lot of that was about grounding the energy and integrating with my energy. But it was pretty odd. Now, all these years later, literally decades later, I'm able to channel them in a way that's much more conversational most of the time. It just comes out very conversational. It can be just like me talking if I want it to be. Or I can also have them color it in different ways to represent their personality a little bit more. But for the most part, it comes through now in a conversational way, which was always probably the goal. So that came with a lot of practice and doing it for a long time and trusting it more and, all that. So, so as we go forward in this project, I can already feel that there's going to be other energies that would like to participate in this project. And they may ask me to channel them, and I will. But I'll always tell you who it is or what it is or what's going on. And other times, energies might come to me and not want to talk, but will want to express their energy through sound. So we might do toning, or they'll just have me hold a note or go into a higher register or a lower register, and just make sounds. And again, that's about bringing their energy into a more earthly expression. And sometimes with Mother Earth, for example, Pan might come in and translate. So, it works all different ways. And so I just wanted to kind of say that, like, if I'm laughing or there's a big smile or a big sigh, or if they're blowing air, or that's them doing stuff with my voice and sound. I just want you guys to understand that. That's them smiling. I'm not like having a joke. I might be. But for the most, that's their energy. They want me to express a smile. I just see I'm smiling, I'm happy. They want me to do that. And so, I allow as much as I'm able to in the moment without stopping the flow. At the same time, occasionally, like in a personal reading, again, I'll get like a little prequel of what they're about to say. And sometimes with the person, I can meet a person and they might start with an issue they have or address it in some way, and then I can just fast forward to the end result sometimes, depending what the issue is and if that's something that I've experienced before, whatever. You can just, all that comes at once when you're an intuitive sometimes. Or, I'll tune into someone and maybe they'll be talking about a loved one or something, and I'll get that loved one in the form of energy, but sometimes it'll come across as anger or upset or confusion or resentment or something like that. And that's kind of expected when I'm reading for people or, connecting to people. But I don't expect anything like that when I'm connecting to one of the spirit guides. So that energy is always positive, loving, uplifting. Um, the mailman just came. And thank you, Buttercup. I see him. Um, it's always positive, uplifting. And if it's not that, I don't really have anything to do with that. So that energy that I'm channeling for you guys is always from source, always with the highest intention. So like if I am reading a person, and let's say the guides are looking at a solution, and I can see, oh, they're going to say this to them, and I might tense up and think, ooh, I can kind of see where this is leading, and how that's going to end up, and I don't feel comfortable maybe with you saying that to them through me, because I don't know if they're ready for it, or it feels like maybe that's not what we want to say. And then the teachers will go, oh no, this is appropriate, and they'll go through a thing with me about why we should go ahead and share that information and offer it, and then I go, oh, okay, fine. And I'm willing for that to go through. So sometimes that will happen because they are making sure that I'm okay with anything they want to do through me, and they're more than happy to show me why they're taking that approach. And then I'm going, oh, okay. And, all that happens really quickly, and it's happening in my brain or in my third eye area. And so if you were there across from me and I'm reading you, you might not think anything's happening, but a lot of that's going on in my head. And sometimes in a channeling, there may be a pause and they're going over things with me or something like that. So I'm trying to explain to you guys in a way so you get a bigger idea of how this works, at least for one person, and kind of what I'm going through when I'm doing it. It might sound a little more complicated and convoluted than it actually is. But that's my process. And once I learned to channel a couple of energies, then it's easier to channel other ones if they want to. Now, my partnership is with Pan and with Djwhal Khul. And those are the two guys I work with and have worked with all these years and continue to until they say, thank you, we're going to do something else. And so those are my main guides. Probably the other energy I've communed with the most telepathically would be the one I call Jesus. And he hasn't shown himself yet on this channel, but I expect him to sooner or later. And that's another energy I've communicated with quite a bit. And then, of course, lots of animal energies and nature spirits and angelic beings and extraterrestrials and things like that, depending on who I'm reading for or what the subject is or stuff like that. So I hope that just didn't seem like a big bunch of rambling. Probably did. But I just, sometimes I hear questions in my brain about what's happening. And I just want to try to make that as clear as possible. And if sometimes it feels like that laughing is weird, or that his voice sounds a little weird here, it's really in an effort to express them in a way that shows their personality a little bit more. Sometimes they don't really want me to do that, and sometimes it's okay. So you might notice that from time to time. All right, I hope that was not confusing. Okay, guys, I hope that was gave you some little bit of an insight more on what I'm doing here, because I know the whole idea of channeling and voice channeling and someone else speaking through your voice is odd and weird and not an everyday occurrence. It's becoming a little more accepted these days, thank goodness, than it was when I first started. But I know there's still questions and comments, and you guys seem to be shy about asking them on writing them out. So I just felt like I might want to talk a little bit more about that before I start bringing in maybe some other teachers here on the channel. Okay, guys, I love you to pieces, and I wish you so much joy and happiness every day.